Good morning. It's morning here. I don't know what time it might be where you are when you're watching this, but it's first thing in the morning here, very early, and I'm just doing this now because it's pretty much the only time I'm going to have a chance to do it. So you get to see me at my not favorite time of day, which is first thing in the morning. But here we are, and we're here to talk about the latest book I just finished reading, Bluebird by Attica Locke. Okay, so this one was recommended to me by a friend. All I knew about it going in was that it was set in Texas, which is where I grew up, and it was about a Texas Ranger trying to solve a mystery. And that pretty much, that is all true. But to get a little bit more into it, it's about a black Texas Ranger named Darren Matthews who is on suspension from the Rangers for possibly being involved in the death of, or his friend, they think killed somebody and he's tangentially involved. I don't know. They didn't really get into it that much. It just kind of is this thread that's slightly through the story. But then Darren has a friend who works for the FBI and says, hey, why don't you go check out this little town, Lark, where this black guy was murdered and then a white woman was murdered. The cat is playing with his toy mouse. Anyway, so Darren goes up to this little town just to pick up a few facts and ends up, of course, staying and being put on the case officially so he can figure out who killed this guy, this black guy named Michael, who was visiting from Chicago. And even first thing in the morning, I can't film anything. Hang on. Oh my god, my cat, seriously. Because, the kids are home because it's a holiday. And then the cat, anyway. I have such a busy week, I wasn't going to have another day where I could do this. So, back to the story. Darren goes to Lark. He starts investigating the death of this black visitor from Chicago named Michael. They aren't ready to call it a homicide because he drowned in a local bayou. But then the fact that the white woman died a couple days later, I want to say, I'm not sure about that, and was last seen with this guy. Anyway, it becomes a whole thing. I won't get into the details, obviously, because if you want to read it, I don't want to ruin anything. But it was a really well-written book. It's got a lot of description, which later, I always read reviews after I've read a book, so it doesn't influence me. But later, when I was reading reviews on Goodreads, a lot of people didn't like all the description. They said this was too slow-moving. And honestly, it is. It's a character study more than a thriller. I mean, there's the mystery, but the mystery actually gets kind of solved abruptly towards the end of the book. They're kind of slow about gathering all the information, and then boom, suddenly it comes together really, like I say, abruptly. But the main character wasn't one of my favorites. How do I explain it? Well, I mean, he's got a drinking problem. He's got problems with his wife, which I guess the drinking problems are tied to the fact that he and his wife are not getting along, and then the suspension thing. But while all of it was very realistic, it made him a little bit unlikable for me. And then the widow of the dead guy, she comes down and she's just really obnoxious. So as much as I liked the way this was written, it was very hard for me to find characters that I wanted to, root for. And since the mystery is kind of slow moving until the end, and yet the book hadn't, it kept me hooked. Like, I didn't at any point lay it down and think, I don't want to finish this. Like, I finished it in a week, which is about average for me. It was not like I sat down and read it in 2 or 3 days. But it wasn't like at any point I set it down and thought, it can wait. Like, when I had a moment to read, I picked it up. It might have spoken more to me being from Texas, because I found a lot of it very authentic, the voice and tone very true to Texas. Attica Locke is from Houston, which is where my parents still live. I didn't grow up in Houston. I grew up outside of Austin. But even still, with family in Louisiana and having grown up in Texas, this just felt very true to the South and a lot of the issues there. So I actually enjoyed that. I enjoyed feeling at home, I guess, in this book. But if you don't have ties to Texas, I don't know. Maybe it is too descriptive. Maybe you just aren't going to feel that way about it. I ended up giving it 4 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. I actually was leaning towards 5 stars, but the end is a little bit of a cliffhanger. I don't know if the author wrote another book or was planning to write another book. I haven't really looked into it because I feel done with these characters. As I mentioned, I don't particularly enjoy a lot of them. So I don't feel the need to read more about them. And so I was kind of annoyed that she left a couple things hanging. Now my cat wants in because I shut him out with his toy mouse, and he is my baby, and he always wants to be with me. Like, literally, he is my baby, and I do love this cat. Like, it is insane how much I love this cat. That is beside the point. Okay. Anyway, would I recommend it? Yes. Overall, yes. With the understanding that you're not getting a page turn. You're getting something that's a little more true detective than, I don't know, CSI or one of those shows. Something that's a little more, enmeshed in its locations and its characters, and kind of slowly putting together all the little, pieces of information versus something that's like a page turning, Born Identity kind of thing or whatever. You're not gonna have that. There are definitely some, moments that are, and to be fair, the way this book is written, I was not convinced that the main character would survive this book. I wouldn't have been surprised if he died partway through and, the narrative took a turn. But, so it doesn't feel predictable in that way, or, it doesn't feel like a foregone conclusion that he'll solve the mystery or any of that stuff. I've already said that he does, but the way it happens is a little bit a roundabout kind of way. So there is that. But yeah, I would recommend the book, again, to people who don't mind it being a little slower, a little more environmental than, plot driven. And, my novel, The Fall and Rise of Peter Stoller, is also a character-driven mystery where it's more about his mindset than everything that's happening. So I can totally dig that kind of book, but I know it's not for everyone. Some people really much prefer something that's a little more fast. Like they just plug and play characters, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't judge people for what books they like to read. Everyone's different, and there have been plenty of times where I'm on a kick and I'm just reading like a ton of Tom Clancy or whatever, and because I'm just like, I want popcorn books. I don't want to have to think too hard about it, and so there are times when that's appropriate. This book felt really good as a fall, winter kind of book. It's set like October. So, for me, books kind of have seasons, and this was a good season to read this one, because it's a good just curl up with it kind of book. I read the faster stuff more like in summer. Okay, that's all I have today. I am now reading the 13th Tale, another one that was recommended. I know it's a little bit older. It was written, I think, in 2006, so I'm a little bit behind on this one, but we'll talk about that one next time.